Welcome back, everyone.
Hi, guys.
We are Just One More Chapter, and I'm Melanie.
I'm Santana.
And thank you guys for listening and coming back every week and watching as well. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. It helps us out so much. Follow us on all of our social medias, which include TikTok and Instagram. And on Fable, Santana and I both post separately for our reviews of books that we read. So if you're interested in other books that we read that we don't talk about on here, follow us on Fable. We'll have our information in the description below.
Yes.
Or our social medias have that as well. And also we have our book club on Fable under Just One More Chapter.
Yes.
Which this is the review episode.
Yes, we're doing Normal People by Sally Rooney.
So back out if you have not read this book.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the book and the TV show. So yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Yes.
Okay. How about let's do our rating. What did you rate? We're going to talk about the book first.
I think I gave it a 3.
Same.
Yeah, I did give it a 3. It's just not my writing style that I prefer, and just the way she writes, it was a little bit confusing for me at times, so that's why I gave it a 3. Yeah.
I gave it a 3 too. Same thing, that the writing style, not having quotation marks.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed, actually. I was like, why doesn't she use quotations?
So this is not from my own assumption. So we've talked about before that we're not really like intellectual, breaking down a book and what it means. So some of these thoughts are not my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So I read that someone mentioned that she does it for a purpose of mixing between the two, that you don't know who's having the thoughts and who isn't, and how they are just as confused as the readers themselves.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa,
That makes sense,
if that's true, it's crazy.
At first, when I was reading, I was like, is this what they're thinking? Is this what they're saying? Unless she says, like, this person says, you don't really know. Right?
Yeah, you have to really pay attention.
Yeah.
But ever since that comment, I was like, whoa. Like, she's trying to make you wonder, because Marianne and Connell are both wondering too.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
it's
this
true.
is like, she's a genius.
Mind blown.
Mind blown. But so yeah, I gave it a 3 because it was a little hard to digest. The time jumps were a little bit different.
Yes.
I really wanted to stay into that moment of whatever the book was. So I gave it a 3 because it wasn't like bad. It was just different.
No, it's a good story. It's just, the way it's written is different from what I'm used to, for sure.
The book immediately jumps in. It gives you no backstory.
Yeah.
It immediately jumps in of Connell coming to the house to pick up his mother.
Yeah.
I want your first impressions of Connell and Marianne.
I thought they were both weird. Instantly, I'm like, these two are awkward as hell.
Awkward is the perfect
awkward.
word. Their conversations with each other.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is going on here?
I don't want to get too far ahead, but the way Sally introduces the characters of how Connell rings the doorbell and Marianne answers, I feel like it summarizes their relationship so well, where it's like he beckons and calls and she immediately answers for him. I was like,
true.
It's such a good introduction of, sorry you guys, we have the dogs again.
Yes, our co-hosts.
Our co-hosts are back and they're going to be barking and feel crazy. I thought it was just like a perfect summary just to that first couple sentences of the chapter of how their relationship is going to go throughout the book.
Yeah, it's very true.
I thought that was cool. Okay, Max is like in heat or something with
Okay.
Max, get off of her, please.
Just chill out, buddy.
Just chill out. He's never usually this crazy. Hey, okay. Santana, do you want to take over?
Yeah, so basically Connell comes to the house, picks up his mom, who works for Marianne's family as a house cleaner.
Yes. Which was a very interesting dynamic of
You already get that social dynamic, right?
Yes.
Like he's not very wealthy, she is quite wealthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. There's nothing wrong with being a housekeeper, but it immediately shows you they're from two different
worlds altogether, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it kind of goes into their high school days too, where Connell's more popular than she is at high school. She's kind of a loner and doesn't really have any friends.
No, Stanley definitely lets us know that like Marianne is someone who keeps to herself,
Yeah.
quiet. No one really like gets her.
Yeah.
And then
She's
Connell,
an outcast.
she's
for
an
sure.
outcast, and
Yeah.
he's like the popular guy.
Yeah.
And I think immediately too, you can tell that there's something between them that you don't know and that they don't know either.
Exactly. There's a connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
like they have some sort of
Weird connection.
weird connection. Like in the beginning of this book, they're like 16.
Yeah, I want to say.
Yeah, like they're young.
Yeah.
They're young, and you definitely feel the vibe of like I think they kind of like each other, but they don't really know how to talk to one another.
Yeah, I agree.
That's such an awkward
Yeah.
like stage in life where you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But immediately you can tell that each of them feel like they don't deserve the other.
Yeah.
Like Connell doesn't feel like, even though she's shy and quiet and he's popular at school, he feels like, well, she's from this rich family.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, and then Marianne thinks like, well, no one really likes me, or she doesn't
Yeah.
really care what other people think.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Which is such a cool thing to
Yeah.
have at that age. Being like,
Totally.
I don't care what you guys think of
Yeah,
me.
I agree.
And then the people at school take it as like, you think you're too good for us.
Yeah, exactly. They start their relationship quite early on in the book as
They
well.
they kiss immediately.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They immediately were like, should we kiss?
Yeah. Exactly. She's like, "Are you going to kiss me now?"
Yes.
It was so awkward.
So awkward.
And they decide to keep it a secret.
Yes.
I think that's more Connell's part, right? Because he doesn't
He's
want people.
worried
He's worried.
that
He's got
she's
this
gonna go and-
anxiety,
yes.
right?
Immediately you could find out that Connell is an anxious man.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he wanted to keep it a secret because he didn't want people to know. And she immediately was like, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
care.
no problem.
No
I
problem.
won't tell anyone. I'm like, girl.
Oh. Which and that's just the beginning of Marianne and understanding how she is she doesn't put herself first.
Yeah, exactly.
At all, and how she feels.
Yeah.
But then learning more about her family life and how her brother's
yeah.
like totally aggressive,
abusive towards
abusive,
her.
like
Same with
puts
her
her
mom.
down.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that like family is horrible.
Yeah, crazy dynamic.
So you can see how like you can understand how when it comes to her first kind of like interest in Connell that she's willing and honestly doesn't feel anything about it. She's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess this is normal.
Yeah, it's probably because like that's the only person who's really given her like positive attention before,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like imagine dealing with a family that's like that abusive towards you your whole life.
And you go to school and you have no friends and you don't fit in.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I feel for
Tragic.
her so much.
And you also like sense her self-loathing too in the beginning of the
Yes.
book. So
Yes.
it's like, oh, I feel so, but it's because of all of that trauma, right?
Absolutely. I hated that dynamic of how her mom, you find out like her dad was abusive to the mom.
Yeah.
And how now her brother is kind of showing abusive signs
Yeah.
and the mom does nothing
Nothing.
to stop it.
Yeah, just sits back and,
Yeah.
and watches it happen. Doesn't stick up for Marianne. It's like, girl,
I know. Oh gosh.
like you went through the same thing.
We have an instance of he
yeah.
plays rugby
Yes.
and she's trying. They like take like a school trip of going to rugby, and when he sits down next to her and shows her affection, and they're trying to tear along this line of like she likes him.
Yeah.
She's trying to keep it secret just because he likes her, and he's trying to keep
Yeah.
it secret. I felt so bad for both of them
Yeah.
of not really knowing how to communicate with each other
Yeah.
and how they're trying to show affection, but because Connell's so anxious of what people think of him
Yeah.
that he's having such a hard time of he likes Marianne
Yeah.
and he doesn't want Marianne to think that their situation is more than what it is.
Yeah,
Oh, I feel so
exactly.
bad for these characters
So bad.
when they're in high school, man.
Totally. And then they also have that like a fundraiser at a bar.
Is that before the? It is before
It
the
is,
Debs.
yeah. So they have this fundraiser at a bar, and they're all having a good time. And Marianne can sense he's like watching her dance on the dance floor.
They're like exchanging
right?
looks.
then some random older guy comes up and basically like sexually assaults Marianne, like
100%.
feels her up, and she gets quite upset and runs outside. And what was the friend's name?
I want to say it was Jamie.
Was it
I
Jamie?
don't know.
Or was it Karen?
Ooh.
I feel like it was Karen for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, you guys do not fight in front of here. The one friend, because there's Peggy, but she's not the one who sticks up for Marianne.
No. Peggy's her friend in like college.
I think it's Karen.
I think it's Karen who kind of like sticks up for her and is like,
because the whole friend group was like laughing,
yeah,
like,
like, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
like you're making
he's
a big
just
deal.
a creeper anyway. Like they're just
making it seem like it wasn't a big deal, but she was just assaulted. Like obviously she's gonna feel that way.
Yes, he physically touches her. Unwanted.
Rachel, who is kind of interested in Connell, right?
You see that right away.
You see they have like she wants him.
Yes,
right. But he's
all
not
up
really
in his business
all the time.
And then Marianne's just like looking, and she's like, "Oh, I guess they have a thing."
Yeah, exactly.
And she's overthinking it, thinking, they're sleeping together too.
Exactly.
When it's just Connell,
Yeah.
and he's just sleeping with Marianne.
Exactly.
Like that whole weird dynamic of like you guys are sleeping together, not talking.
Yeah.
But then when you guys are out in public, you're like pretending you don't even talk to each other.
Yeah, like you barely know each other.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I hate that so much.
Craziness. So, yeah, at that scene, Rachel's kind of like, it's not a big deal. And Connell actually sticks up for Marianne at this point and is basically like, F off, Rachel. Like, you know.
She's like, why do you care?
Exactly. And I was like, yes, Connell. And then he's like, oh, I'll drive you home, which I thought was so nice.
Yeah, so here's up in the hall, the door comes open again. Karen comes out with Eric and Rachel and Connell following. They see Marianne on the floor, and Karen runs over to her while the other three stay standing where they are now, not knowing what to do. Maybe or not wanting to do anything. Karen hunches down in front of Marianne and touches her hand. Marianne's eyes are sore and she doesn't know where to look. Are you all right? Karen says. I'm fine, says Marianne. I'm sorry, I think I just had too much to drink. Like, the fact that she's like apologizing for someone assaulting her.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, oh, I'm making a big deal out of it. But like, I would feel the same way.
Yeah, and like this Rachel girl's like, leave her. I think it was funny.
Yeah.
And then Connell's just standing there and you're like, can you just say something, Connell?
Hello?
I hated it.
Like, speak up, please.
And then so Rachel goes, we were all laughing at the time. And then Connell says, that's not true. Everyone looks around at him, and then Marianne looks at him and their eyes meet. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you? He says. Oh, do you want to kiss her better? Says Rachel.
Oh my God, Rachel.
God. And then this is when like Connell really steps up.
Yeah.
He goes, Rachel, he says, would you ever fuck off?
Yeah,
like,
I love
finally.
that.
So then he decides to drive her home.
Yeah.
I hated that scene.
Yeah, it was brutal.
But
I was so like proud of Connell in that moment. Like, even though, you know, he's trying to hide his feelings towards her, he did stick up for her in a sense.
Oh, and this is so, they have these scenes with each other. And when they're always in his bedroom or her bedroom, they are so intimate and they open up so much to each other.
Yeah.
Like he tells her she's beautiful. Like, you know, he opens up so much to her, and I just wish that, you know, come in front of people, he would do the same.
Yeah.
So it goes in Connell's room, he and Marianne lie down together, whispering. He tells her that she's beautiful. She has never heard that before, though she has sometimes privately suspected of herself. But it feels different to hear it from another person. Max. Her face is wet, and she's been crying. He kisses her neck. Are you okay, he says. When she nods, he smooths her hair back and says it's all right to be upset, you know. And she goes, you would never hit a girl, would you? He goes, of course not. Why would you ask that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would grow on hitting girls? So immediately you start to feel like, okay, I think Marianne doesn't really know how love is expressed or how affection is expressed.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when she
opens up about her family life to him.
My dad used to hit my mom, she says, for a few seconds. And then he asks, I didn't know that. Did he ever hit you? And she says, sometimes. And so like they feel so comfortable with each other opening up.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she would think that like, oh, hey, would you hit me?
Yeah.
Or any other girl? And then he goes, I would never hurt you, okay? And and this is when he says, I love you.
Yeah.
To her.
Yeah, the first time.
but then she doesn't say it back. She's never believed herself fit to be loved by any person, but now she has a new life, of which this is the first moment, and even after many years have passed, she will still think this. Yes, that was it, the beginning of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, heartache.
Craziness.
Heartache. So this will makes what comes up even worse.
Yes,
Where-
because next it's basically him telling.
Asking Rachel to the depths.
He tells Marianne first, though, which is weird. He says, "I'm going to ask Rachel to the Debs,"
This
which
conversation,
is like their prom, I think, from what I got from it, right?
No, so wait 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Did we feel that? Did we have the conversation of them asking?
It's after that.
It's after that. Okay, sorry, you go ahead while I'm trying to look at this.
Yeah. So basically, I think he tells Marianne first, "I'm gonna take Rachel to the Debs," and she's like, "Oh, okay, like whatever." Makes it not seem like a big deal, but you can tell she's like hurt, right? Trying to remember like the exact scene, but I can't really.
Like, even though, okay, before we get to that, I want to say, even though Connell and Marianne are having such deep conversations and saying, "I love you," that like, Connell still thinks that Marianne thinks less of him. Okay. I'm so sorry, you guys. That's it, like, which, it's just a thing to digest of, like, he still, even though, like, they're having sweet moments, he still feels like in himself that, like, oh, I'm not good enough for her.
Yeah.
Why, though?
And I think his mom kind of leans into that, too, like when she's talking to Marianne about to Connell, a lot of the time she's like, "Oh, she's too good for you," kind of thing, right?
Like, he was thinking about Marianne's family and about the idea that she was too good for him, and also about how she had told him the night before that the dad used to hit the mom. He heard from guys in school that sometimes girls made up stories about themselves for attention. So, like, he's overthinking things all the time.
Like, oh, the poor guy. I
Like,
feel so bad for him.
He
The
constantly
way
just...
his mind works is crazy.
So, he has that thought, and then immediately it just goes... he goes to school. His friends are like saying, "I feel sorry for her." And then Connell's like, "I think you should ask her to the Debs." His friend Eric said that. Jokingly. And then I think he just kind of like stews with it. He kept thinking to himself, saying to Marianne in bed, "I love you." It was terrifying, like watching himself committing a terrible crime on CCTV. And soon she would be in school, putting her books in her bag, smiling to herself, never knowing anything. "You're a nice person and everyone likes you." He took a deep, uncomfortable breath and then threw up. So that's the first time Connell has such bad anxiety and depression that he starts throwing up of the anxiety of his friends finding out that he just likes her. Like, I hate it. And then immediately we find out through his mom's conversation that he asked Rachel to the Debs.
Yes.
And I loved what the mother did.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you want to get into it?
Yeah. So she isn't... I can't remember like exactly how it goes. Like, does Connell pick the mom up and then
Yes.
she's like, "Let me out of the car"?
He picks
Is that the scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He picks Lorraine up.
yeah, they're driving.
Yeah, they're driving.
Yeah, I think they're driving back home.
And basically he tells Lorraine, his mom, that he's asking Rachel to the Debs, and she's like, "What? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Let me out of this car." Like,
Yes.
she is so pissed off. She's like, "Aren't you with Marianne?" Like, because she knows that they have some sort of relationship. Marianne's over at his house all the time and everything like that, right?
Yeah, and sees that they are intimate. She knows they're intimate.
Exactly.
And then Connell's just like, "I haven't told her yet, but I'm going to tell her."
Yeah.
And immediately Lorraine's like, "Are you insane? Let me out of this car."
Let me out of this car. She's like, "I'm not going to say very nice things to you if I stay in the vehicle," which, good on her.
I know. There
right?
was one thing she said that I really wanted to... she calls him out immediately and doesn't hold back. Oh, there's a certain line that she said. Oh, yeah. So the mother was first getting upset of like, "Did you tell her something bad would happen if she told on you? Like, if you guys found out?" And he goes, "No, obviously not. We agreed to it, okay?" And then he doesn't understand why his mom is like getting upset.
Yeah.
Oh, she says, I think you're disgraced. I'm ashamed of you.
Yes.
Ooh.
Ouch.
But then she's like, if I stay in this car, she's going to say worse things to him. And I
Yeah.
love the mother at that moment.
Yeah, me too.
Being like, that's that.
Like your son's being a shit person. Like, I'm glad she called him out.
Months go by, and Alan, we have a scene with her brother where she's at the pool. She has been not talking to Connell, and she hasn't been going to school.
Yes.
She just-
after she found out he took Rachel to the Debs, it was basically like she didn't want to go to school anymore. She was staying
In the
at
book, they
home.
didn't have that conversation.
They didn't
The
have.
teeth-
Oh, see, that's where I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So yeah, but she found out.
Yes.
Yes.
They've had that conversation. It just wasn't
Yeah,
in the book.
exactly.
And months go by, and Alan gets a call from Connell, and he's like joking of like, oh, do you want to talk to Marianne?
Yeah.
And then we have another scene of Alan just being a complete asshole.
Oh my God, he's the worst.
I hate him so
Yeah,
much.
me too.
And he's like, oh, here you go. Connell wants to talk to you. And then she's like, nope, I don't want to talk to him.
No, hangs up the phone.
Yeah, and that's when the
Yeah.
brother gets so mad.
Yeah.
For what
For
reason?
no reason. Like, it's like, why?
Yeah, and just immediately goes down to putting her down, being like, I'm surprised he even knows your name. Like,
Yeah.
just completely going in like, you're nothing.
You're a loser.
You're a
You have no
loser.
friends. Yeah. He's brutal.
Oh, I hate it. And then he's like, immediately, don't tell mom. Like, don't rat me out. I'm going to hurt you.
Like, okay.
Ugh, I hate
The mom
it.
would do anything anyways.
Yeah, I know. So they have that conversation in the pool. It's been months, and now it's the Debs. Now we find out, Colin's at the Debs with Rachel. His friend Eric, who's kind of like his best friend, is like, hey, like, we know you're like with Marianne.
Yeah.
We-
We know you guys were like together hooking up. Yeah.
And Connell's like, what? Really?
He's like, you guys knew? And she's like, yeah, it was obvious.
what did you think of
I
that?
was just like, oh my God.
Idiot. You guys could have just said something.
Exactly.
No one cared.
Exactly. This is kind of where their roles reverse now. Like Marianne is popular in college and Connell's having a hard time fitting in and finding his own social circle.
Yeah, here we go.
Right?
Yes, because Connell didn't know where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And Marianne's like, well, why don't you just go to Trinity?
Trinity.
Like, and so then they both go to the same college.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, they're kind of both living their life in college and they finally meet up again at a party.
She gets drunk, and he's not, because we already know that Connell's anxious, and he doesn't feel like he belongs, and he
Yeah.
feels like he's less than everybody. So he went to this party just to go to the party.
Yeah.
But he's not drinking.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like keeping to himself. And Marianne's more like loose and having a good time.
Yeah,
She's got
smoking
friends,
cigarettes,
smoking
and he's like,
cigs.
"When did you start smoking?"
Yeah, I know. So immediately she gets drunk
Yeah.
and she's like coming on to Connell.
Yeah, exactly.
Flat out being like, I want you to fuck me.
Yes. No, I think that's afterwards because at first she has a boyfriend when they first meet up at the first party.
Oh, see, in the book, it immediately goes to she's at a friend's house, and she wants to have sex with him.
Oh.
So the boyfriend comes a little bit after. I know that's the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Right? Or what did your notes say?
Yeah, no, like I just have like basic notes here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I don't
they're
have
at a
in-depth
party.
notes.
It goes a couple months. Then it goes, like you say, it goes back in time.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to obviously have sex with him. But he's like, no, like you're intoxicated.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
She's like, I'll give you drugs.
yeah. We want to be together on this high level.
That's so funny.
Because they start having like relationships. His
Yeah.
first girl is like, she thinks is like Teresa, and he goes, she's not my girlfriend. He's like, okay, but it was disrespectful of our friendship because she's apologizing for how she acted of being drunk.
Yeah.
And then she goes, well, with us, like I don't want it to become weird. Like I want us to still be friends. But so she hasn't had a boyfriend just yet. Marianne and Connell are kind of like, again, not talking to each other in terms of how they feel.
Yeah.
But they're still kind of like sneakily running, even though they're not sneaky.
Again, starting the sneaky hookups.
Yeah.
Not telling everyone.
They talk about with Peggy, of course, of like, would they have like a three-way?
Oh yeah, because Peggy's like, you guys are like having sex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately clocking it.
She's clocking it for sure.
Which I thought like the whole thing of,
And she's like, oh, would you guys like want to have a threesome?
yes!
And Connell's like, you can see it, like you can tell his anxiety starting here. Like he's Yeah.
Getting anxious with this type of like intimate conversation
Yes.
with people. He doesn't like it at all.
Yeah.
There's this one line where he goes, he's not indecisive on the question of whether he'd like to do it or not. He actually can't do it.
Yeah.
For some reason, and he just can't explain to himself. He thinks maybe he could fuck Peggy in front of Marianne, although it'd be awkward and not necessarily enjoyable, but he could not. He's immediately certain he's immediately certain ever to do anything with Marianne with Peggy watching or any of her friends watching or anyone at all. He feels shameful and confused even to think about it. It's something he doesn't understand in himself. For the privacy between himself and Marianne to be invaded by Peggy or by another person would destroy something inside of him, a part of his selfhood, which doesn't seem to have a name and which he has never tried to identify before. So like,
Yeah.
this is like, these are such weird, awkward feelings for him. Oh, God.
And I think he has a panic attack after that, does he not?
I think he is panicking, but I don't think
He gets
that
all
moment,
hot and she's like, oh, Marianne's like, what's wrong? Like, did I upset you?
this is when he has a panic attack.
Yeah.
Yes. So that conversation ends, and he goes back to bed beside her and kissed her face. She had been sad before him after the film, but now she was happy. It was in Connell's power to make her happy. It was something he could just give to her, like money or sex. With other people, she seemed so independent and remote. But with Connell, she was different, a different person. He was the only one who knew her like that.
Yes.
This is where I think he starts to realize that he has this like control over Marianne, and he feels like it's such an odd thing to be in, that like his mood and how he treats her affects her so
Yes,
much.
yeah.
Like that must be so weird that like he doesn't want to be in this position, but he's like, wait, like
Yeah.
I have so much control over it. I could do anything with
Yeah.
her.
And I think she lets him know that too. Like, I'll do anything you want.
Yes. But like thinking about it, that must feel so weird that like you can do anything you want to this
Yeah.
person and they'll just do anything you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is when he has a panic attack in front of her. You saved my life, he says. She turns around, smiling, rolling her sleeves back down. I wouldn't have enjoyed it either, she says. I would have done it if you wanted to, but I see you didn't, meaning the threesome. He looks at her. He keeps looking at her until she says, what? You shouldn't do things you don't want to do, he says. Oh, I didn't mean that. She throws her hands up like the issue's irrelevant. So like, or immediately she's like, I'll do anything you want me to,
Yeah.
just because I like you. Oh, I don't like that, Marianne. Don't do that. And so then he goes, he has this terrible sense of all of a sudden that he could hit her in the face, very hardly even, and she would just sit there and let him. The idea frightens him so badly that he pulls his chair back and stands up. And this is where he has a panic attack. Oh, I don't like it.
Poor
But he doesn't
Marianne.
realize it's a panic attack.
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't know what's going on.
No, he doesn't go,
He's
what?
getting all hot, and Marianne's like, you look like a ghost, you're pale.
Yeah. Eventually, she does get a boyfriend. Do you want to talk about her boyfriend?
Is it Jamie?
So did I
No,
get-
first we have to talk about Connell can't afford to stay in Dublin. Right? So basically he has a summer job and he's paying for his apartment or whatever, wherever he lives. And he loses that job, they let him go, and he can't afford to stay in the city. So he is going to have to go back home to live with his mom for the summer. His roommate's like, just ask Marianne. Like, you're there all the time anyways, right?
Why are you like? Just it seems
Just
pretty
ask
obvious.
her. But like
It's so-
his anxiety doesn't allow him to do that.
Which I get it.
And also the communication again. It's like, if you would have just expressed this to her, like she would have been like, no problem.
That's
right?
such a frustrating part.
Yeah. So basically they're together and he's like, oh, I'm going home for the summer. And Marianne is like, interpreting this as a breakup.
Yes.
Right?
Which, hey, I think
Obviously.
Yeah. You're like, hey, okay.
Yeah. Because he also mentioned something about seeing other people. I don't know if
Well, I think he's
Yes.
overthinking it, thinking like, well, if I leave, I think Marianne wants to see other people,
Yeah.
and so he's already projecting what she would feel,
Yeah.
even though it's not how she would feel. He's just
Exactly.
assuming. So yeah, this whole miscommunication of,
Miscommunication again.
and that's how they like
Right?
break up, and you're like, why are you guys doing to each other?
So brutal.
I hate it so much. Jamie, that's
Jamie
right.
is her first boyfriend.
Is her first
after
boyfriend.
Connell.
And immediately, when they like talk about it, she immediately just throws Jamie under the bus, being like, "Well, he's intimidated by you."
Yeah,
He's
he's
shorter.
short. Which I was like, oh my god, right?
Oh my gosh, I can't. It's just-
Yeah.
So you could just tell, like, no matter who are they with, they're always gonna feel them that they are less than
Yes.
each other.
Yeah.
She's like, then why can't you guys just be together?
Just be together. Hello, right? And then I think at this point too, she also says like he's a bit of a sadist and likes rough sex.
Oh God, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, and you could tell Connell was not impressed by this either, right? He's like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And also in Connell hooked up with the teacher at
Yes.
one point,
Yes.
right? Which
So-
I wanted to touch on because that wasn't mentioned. It was mentioned in the show, but no,
They kissed in the show. It didn't go
Yes.
into the past of how they,
Yes.
because there was always a rumor of how this one particular teacher in high school had a thing for Connell.
Yes, yeah, was
And-
always flirting with him,
Always flirting with
making
him.
comments towards him.
So Connell goes back home,
Yeah,
and he just doesn't really know what to do with himself. So he just gets drunk at a bar.
Yes.
And sees this teacher.
Yeah.
And this teacher comes on to him.
and he is like almost blackout drunk at this point.
She's kind of like going through
Yeah.
the like, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
you
takes
know?
him home, and like he is not into this. He is like,
No.
what's going on?
But he doesn't know how to
He doesn't know how to communicate his feelings once again, right?
And he's just like, well, I guess I made out with her. I guess this is where it
Yeah.
should go.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
basically, she's trying to undress him, and then he's like, "I'm gonna be sick."
Yep.
And then he takes off, and then I think he blacks out at this point. Doesn't know how he got home.
Yes, but
Right?
she tries to physically touch him, and he kind of goes with it because he feels like he has to,
Yeah.
which is such a good depiction of feeling like you just have to do it because you went
Yeah.
home with them, and then he immediately stops it, and he's like, "What just happened?"
He's like, "I'm gonna throw up."
He doesn't understand that that was
Yeah.
like sexual assault.
Exactly.
Like he said no to it.
100%.
Ugh.
And then I think when Connell and Marianne finally meet up and she's telling him about her like sexual life now with Jamie and how he's kind of a bit of a sadist, Connell does express like what happened with the teacher too, and Marianne gets quite offended and she's like, I'll kill her.
Yeah. Immediately he's like, I will kill her.
I will kill her.
Ooh, and that just again just shows you how intense their their relationship is.
Exactly.
And then also we have a conversation about how people know about Marianne and her boyfriend, and how people back home talk about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Connell brings it up.
Yes.
Like, people talk about you.
Yeah.
She's like, okay.
But she doesn't really care. But at the
No.
same time, it's also like, why would you tell her?
I know. Stop projecting that you care what people think about you.
Exactly.
And then I think the next scene is that Connell gets jumped
Oh, yes.
by these
Yes.
people and remembers Marianne's number off by heart.
Yes, she's like, "Oh, you're the only number I remembered. Like, sorry, I have to call you like this." Because I don't think they've seen each other for quite some time.
Yeah,
at
months,
this point,
months keep
right?
going by.
Yeah.
Months keep going by. Do you want to talk about this scene?
Yeah, so basically, Connell gets jumped. He calls Marianne. Marianne's having friends over. They're all drinking. Connell is completely wasted. Shows up at her house because he doesn't have money because he
robbed.
needed a ride home. So shows up at her place, and they kind of have this like intimate moment where she's like, "Oh my god, like he's injured," and
Oh, there was one really cute scene where like she talks about like, oh, your pupils are dilated.
Yes,
And he goes,
he's like, yes, and I love that
he's
quote.
like, oh well, they
So
get like that when I see you.
So cute, right?
Stop
And then I
it.
think at this point she's like, well, Jamie's upstairs kind of thing. She kind of pulls away a little bit, right?
And he goes like, why are you still with him?
yes.
I'm sorry, huh?
Yeah, he's pissed about that.
Yeah, because you could have a different boyfriend, you know. I mean, guys are constantly falling in love with you, from what I hear. And then she's just like, stop. She's
Yeah.
like, why are you doing this right
Exactly.
now? Which is true. Like, why are you saying this?
Yes.
And he goes, well, you don't hate me. He goes, well, no, I'm immune to you because I knew you in school. She goes, when I was ugly, a loser. Oh, stop doing this to yourself.
Marianne.
And he does go, well, you were never ugly. And she goes, do you still think I'm pretty? He looks at her, probably knowing what she's doing, and then looks at his own hands, ever reminding himself of his physical stature in the room. What do you mean physical stature?
Yeah.
He thinks because he got beat up that he's, again, somehow less than?
Exactly.
And then she, in her brain, is like, well, fuck you. Like, what are you doing? Why are you saying all this
Yeah.
stuff? And he goes, I'd literally rather anyone else be your boyfriend.
That's right.
Why do you
It's
care?
like, oh my goodness. And then he confesses to her he's been seeing someone himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, right after
Being
that.
like, oh, hey, sorry, I forgot to mention.
yeah. I'm also seeing someone. Her name's what was
Helen.
her? Helen, yes. She's a medical student.
But then Marianne starts to want to cry.
yeah, she gets
finding
really
out.
upset. about
Very
this.
upset.
Yeah.
And she goes, why are you trying to break up with me and Jamie then? He goes, I'm not. I just want you to be happy.
Yeah.
Because you're such good friends, is it? Like they get like
Yeah.
this combative. And then she goes, are you in love with her? And he goes, I do.
yeah. Brutal.
And that's when she just goes like, fuck off.
Yeah,
Like,
leave. I
what do
don't
you-
want you here anymore. And then there's an awkward moment where he's like, I still need
money.
to get home.
Yeah, you're like, oh, she's like, oops, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, did they have that conversation? No, they don't have, I was like thinking like the show where they have the conversation about like, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
They don't have that there
No.
then.
No.
Oh, this interaction with them, man.
Yes. And then quite a bit of time goes by
6
again,
months.
right? And Connell is
With Helen,
with Helen.
they're doing great. He really enjoys this relationship.
yeah.
You see how Connell thinks like him and Helen's relationship is normal.
Yes.
And like this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And how Marianne's was kind of like weird.
Yes.
So okay, so it jumps. And then it goes into where Marianne is like over in Italy, I think it is.
Yes.
All of like her like, you know, rich friends or
Yeah.
like this, you know, house.
They've been staying at Marianne's summer house in Italy.
And she invites Helen. Right?
She just invites Connell.
That's right, 'cause they're-
and his roommate.
Yes.
Right? They're traveling through Europe anyway. So she's like, come stay with us
Mm-hmm.
in Italy for a little bit. You'd love it here. And this whole time, Connell's been like backpacking. Like they've been communicating this whole time through
Yeah,
email,
they're constantly sending
right?
emails, which is so cute.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have this interaction. And what did you think about the whole? I'm trying not to remember the freaking TV show, but the whole scene of how her
Italy
boyfriend,
scene,
yeah,
right? The
of how
dinner scene?
boyfriend is like so rude and talks
So rude.
Jesus Christ, and is like, well, we can't be
Racial
drink-
remarks and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you could just tell how the people are not nice people.
Yeah.
Peggy's not nice.
Nope.
Jamie's not freaking nice. And Connell's like, why are you like in his mind, he's like, why are you with these people?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Marianne, why are you hanging around with these people?
Exactly.
And the whole thing about you have to drink champagne only out of flutes.
Yeah, the flutes. This is where it kind of starts. Is Marianne's getting annoyed with him. She's like, "These are champagne glasses," and you know, there's a comment like, "These are just the ones you're talking about are flutes, not the ones that we have here at the table." And
Yep.
he's like, "I want the other ones." And
then also goes into like, oh, you need cream.
oh yeah,
when you have
she brings out the
fruits.
strawberries, and he's like, "Where's the cream?"
What?
And she's like pissed off, like, "Shut
And she's
up.
just
Like,
taking
you can
it.
go get it yourself." But yeah,
And she just takes it. She doesn't say anything for herself. She's like,
yeah.
okay, I'll go get the cream. And then
And I think this is when he follows her back into the house.
correct.
And everyone's sitting, eating the fruit, having dessert at the dinner table, and they hear this explosive argument, and Marianne screams, and Connell
Runs in.
runs in.
And he's starting to talk about how like, oh, you're a mental case.
Yeah.
And she's like, put that champagne glass down. And Connell knows why it's so important to
Yeah.
her. And then he goes on and smashes it.
Yeah. What an asshole. I hate Jamie.
Yeah, I hate Jamie so
Such
much.
an asshole.
And she wants to then go and physically like attack him.
Attack him, but Connell holds her back. Yeah.
And then they leave. They leave the house and just kind of like decompresses.
And I think she also asked him, like, can I sleep in your room tonight?
Yeah.
Right?
So what'd you think about that?
I was like,
because he's with Helen still.
Yeah, and like Jamie's still in the house. Like, what? She's like, I'll sleep on the floor. And he's like, oh, no need. Like, the bed's big enough for both of us. I was like, oh, okay.
One bed situation.
Right?
Oh. And then, again, they have this really like emotional conversation. And she, again, puts herself down thinking like, why can't I be like normal people? He goes, what do you mean? Like, you are normal. And she thinks like she must deserve, sometimes I think I must deserve it. Otherwise, I don't know why it would happen. But if he's just in a bad mood, this is when she talks about Ellen.
Yes.
He'll just follow me around the house like there's nothing I can do. He'll come into my room. He doesn't care if I'm sleeping or anything. And then he goes, would he ever hit you? She goes, sometimes. So less so since I moved away. To be honest, I don't even mind it that much. The physiological stuff is more demoralizing. I don't understand how to explain it. I know it must sound, and then like they both start getting upset.
Yeah.
Like how much to think about it? Like this girl that you care about so much is telling you that her brother used to hit her, and he's just like,
Brutal.
I don't know what to do with this information.
Did they kiss in the book at this point too? I believe they do.
He kisses her forehead. Oh God, this is what's horrible. How she's like, oh, you must think I'm crazy, like I'm damaged. And he goes, well, in his mind, he's like, well, I always thought you were damaged.
Yeah.
Like, he always thought like you were, and she always thought like this is the worst part about myself is that I'm damaged and I'm not good enough for you.
Yeah.
So then, yes, they start to kiss, and her mouth tastes dark like wine. And then he goes, and then she says, no, we shouldn't. She draws away just like that. He can hear himself breathing in silence.
Yeah.
So then, and then they just like hold hands for a second. And then he says he can't believe the stupidity of what he just done. Sorry, he says again. But Marianne already turned away. Oh, God. And then, months go by again. They're writing emails to each other. Oh, and now she has a new boyfriend.
Yes.
Lucas.
And she's in Sweden.
This boyfriend. What did you think about the whole situation of Lucas taking inappropriate photos of her and her just going along with it?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, Marianne, what are you doing? Right?
I
don't think in the book it really touches too much on that, though. Like, you get, basically, it's just the end scene, right?
You don't get to, you do know that that's their situation, though.
Yeah.
You do understand, like, that's, like, their predicament.
Yeah.
Then we find out how Marianne's friends are starting to drift from her because they're upset with her breaking up with Jamie.
Breaking up with Jamie, that's right. It's a huge deal for her.
Her friends start to get upset, and she's like, "What do you like? Why?"
Yeah.
Like, and then it goes into, the scene where he takes a picture of her, and then we realize not just taking pictures, that like he like physically like not assaults her, but they have this relationship where he's like the master.
Yes.
And she's like
the submissive.
Yeah. And there's this one particular scene.
Tying her up.
Yep.
And that sort of thing.
We don't get much from them, but then
I think there's also an agreement, like he can do whatever he wants to
Yes.
her until he says, okay, go for a shower. Like that's
Correct.
their thing, right? Like
Yeah.
he can do whatever she wants, say whatever he wants to her.
she'll be a submissive until he does that.
Yeah.
They have this one scene where he starts squeezing her throat. And she coughs slightly. He takes up the cloth again and wraps it around as a blindfold around her eyes. Even her breathing is labor. Her eyes itch. He touches her cheek gently with the back of his hand, and she feels sick. You see, I love you, he says, and I know you love me. Horrified, she pulls away, and then she's like, nope.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm leaving now.
Yeah, I'm done with this. And she gets quite upset. Right?
That for her, like, she doesn't understand between of someone actually loving her and this, like, how dare you say that you love me and you do this to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. You know, that's when their relationship, I don't think we ever see from Lucas again.
No, that was it.
Then we go months later, and Connell is in a psychiatrist's office
That's right. He's been suffering.
and goes through this chart of like, how do you feel about yourself? And he doesn't really understand that the panic attacks that he's been having is linked to depression.
Yeah.
And it's, oh God, I hate it. It's so
Brutal.
sad. But what really triggers it is that he's overweight in college. He's feeling isolated from everyone. And then he gets a call that one of his friends commits suicide.
Yes, that's right.
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, so their friend Rob from high school was found in a river. He got a message from one of his friends on New Year's Eve, I believe it was, and basically saying no one's seen Rob, and then he was found the next day. And Connell really struggled with this because the last message he had ever received from Rob, he never even replied to. He felt there was more he could have done to help save Rob, right?
Yeah, and he's not getting like survivor's guilt, but I think it's what everyone goes through if you've lost someone with
Like,
suicide. I could have done. You feel like you could have done more.
Right?
And it's so sad, but it's so true. People feel that way.
Yeah.
I felt that way, and he really takes it on of like, what am I doing with my life? If I just stayed home, he
Yeah.
would have been alive.
Exactly.
And then he goes through this huge depression. Oh, I hate it.
Really bad. But yeah, he speaks with a psychiatrist, I believe.
Yep, he goes through that. He's still with Helen. They're still in a relationship. What did you
Yes.
think of Helen and Colin's relationship in the book?
So I mean, I thought it was a healthy relationship. There was nothing wrong with it, right?
He really loved her.
Yeah, you could tell they
In his
had a
own
good
way.
relationship.
But
But he wasn't fully with her.
of course not.
Right.
And what really stands out was when he goes back to the funeral and he sees Marianne.
That's right.
And Helen's there too.
Helen's there.
And Connell doesn't introduce Helen as his girlfriend.
That's
his,
right.
His used to be best friend Eric is like, so is this your girlfriend?
Is
He
this
goes,
your girlfriend? Yeah.
He totally like dismisses Helen.
Yes.
Like,
that's right. And Marianne walks up and Eric makes a comment. Is there any is it awkward between you guys or something
Yes.
along those lines, right?
Yes.
And Marianne's like, oh, behave. Like,
Yeah.
I know Helen. Like, we all go to school together.
Yes.
Right? And then afterwards, Helen is pissed.
Yes.
Right?
In the book, it doesn't go into too much detail, but they are in bed. And she brings up the fact that she felt unwanted. And in Colin's mind, he goes, well, it's a funeral.
Yeah.
He wasn't thinking about Helen's feelings.
Exactly.
Which, you
Is
are.
to be fair.
You should.
Yeah.
But in Connell's mind, he's just like, we're at a funeral. Like, I'm not trying
it's
to.
not really a social thing where I'm trying to
No.
introduce you to all my friends.
He has a hard time understanding that like other people have feelings too. And she's upset that like you didn't introduce me as your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, well then, or no, she goes, well, if you didn't want me to come, you shouldn't have asked me. He goes, okay, well, I'm sorry I asked you then.
And she's like,
bad
wow,
words.
you don't want me here?
No. He's like,
Right?
yeah, like, I'm sorry that was there. He goes, no, I'm saying that if I gave you the wrong impression of what it was going to be like, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then they go back and forth. And then it goes 2 weeks later, it was over. They broke up.
Yeah, they broke
Oh, I
up.
feel so bad for her.
Oh, I know. I felt bad for Helen.
She was such like a good.
Because obviously she knows about the connection between Marianne and Connell. She can sense it. Like, you can sense that sort of thing, right?
Oh,
when you're in a
yeah.
relationship with someone, they still have feelings for their ex.
Yes.
Like, you know.
You know. Well, and you also, he's upfront and honest with her. Like, they're sending emails constantly.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
but I can empathize with Helen just being like, we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
We go to a funeral, but like, you're not going to
Yeah.
introduce me to anybody.
To your friends.
That's
brutal.
not, that's not good on Connell. I don't like that at all.
No. Because I think at this point it's kind of like they're hanging out again. They went out the night before. And Marianne was like, "Oh, did you kiss that girl?"
Yes, they were okay, so they were dancing at the club.
Yes.
And then who walked away?
Connell walks away.
Yeah, Marianne was like took it personally, being like, well, you don't want to be with me. But I
Yeah.
think he was starting to have like a panic attack.
Yes, exactly.
And then he was just talking to someone else. Oh, you
And
guys.
then she's like, oh, did you kiss that girl?
Yes.
And he's like, no.
Nope.
And then he's like, Eric was looking for you. Did he find you? And she's like, yeah, he apologized for the way he treated me in high school. And
Yes.
then he's kind of like, oh, Rob would have done the same, right?
And she goes, oh, it's nothing. Like, we were kids. And he goes, it wasn't nothing. He bullied you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then she was like, oh, yeah, like, you're right. You guys did bully me.
Yeah. And this is also speaks again to their miscommunication, because I think at this point she's like, well, why did you walk away from me when we were dancing? And he's like,
Yes.
I didn't walk away. I told you I was going out for a smoke.
Yes. And you
she's
didn't want to
like,
come with me.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I didn't hear you. You're like,
yeah.
ah,
It's like,
yes.
what is going on here? And then they kind of have
they get together.
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
And he's like, I missed you. And they're starting to realize like they really do like each other.
Yeah.
And they start to get intimate. And
Yes.
she says, will you hit me?
hit me? Yes. And he's like, no.
No, he's
Pulls
like,
away immediately.
I
and
don't
is
want
like,
that,
"No,
please.
I don't think I'd like that." I believe is what he said.
He says, I don't think I want that. Sorry.
Yeah.
She says nothing. Is that okay? He asks. She still says nothing. Do you want to stop? He says. She nods her head. She feels his weight lift off her. She feels empty again and suddenly chill. They just don't talk. He's like, are you
Yeah.
okay? I'm sorry. I didn't want to do that. I just think it would be weird. I mean, not weird, but I don't know. I don't think it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
She goes, you think I'm weird?
Yes. That's what
Marianne.
Like, oh, girl.
Because I didn't say that. I just meant I don't want things to be weird between us. She feels terrible. And then she's just like, I think I'm going to go.
Immediately, she's trying to rush out of there.
What
Yeah.
the heck, you guys? Stop doing this. And then she gets home
Yes.
to her
this is
brother.
this explosive
And he
scene
immediately
with her
goes, where the
brother.
fuck were you?
Yeah. Like,
What
you're
is
not
with
my
this
dad.
guy?
Like, the fact that this is her brother talking to her like this is just insane to
Oh
me.
my gosh, you shouldn't be going over there.
Yeah, he's mental. He takes pills. It's like, what?
Which is such a sad thing. It goes, she knows a confrontation is coming now, and she can do nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
It's moving toward her already from every direction. Oh, I hate it. She goes, I thought you liked him at school. When did you, I thought you liked him, says Marianne. You did when we were in school. Yeah, how was I supposed to know that he was fucked up in the head? He's on medication and everything. Didn't you know that?
Yeah.
This is where it really pushes in the fact that, like, this is why Connell feels like he's not worthy, is
Yeah.
because Alan, who's an ass, thinks Connell is less than.
Yeah, because he takes depression medication, which is wild.
So stupid. So they get this on altercation. She starts to run away. He smashes something, runs after her,
Yeah, smashes
starts
the beer
yelling at the
bottle.
door, calling her a freak. And then she's like, "Can you just leave?" Like, she's like, "I won't tell mom." Which she doesn't. Okay, whoa, pause. She doesn't call her mom mom.
Yeah.
She calls her mom Denise.
Yes.
Oh my god,
It's crazy.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
She doesn't even call her mom. How freaking sad. And so then he's forcing himself on the way in, and he pushes the door open, she connects with the door, and immediately like breaks her nose.
Yes.
Bleeding.
It, like, hits her in the nose.
And then he goes, are you going to blame me for that?
Yeah, it's like, obviously.
What?
What do you think? Brutal. And
Oh.
immediately Connell gets a phone call from her, and he rushes and picks her up. At first, he's like, "Oh, like she thinks she's calling about the situation they had
Yes.
before this."
And he wants to
right? He wants
apologize.
to apologize. He's like, "I don't know what happened," and immediately she's like, "I'm just injured. Do you think you could come get me or help me?" And he's like, "Yes,
Yes.
I'm coming right now."
I'm coming to get you.
Yeah. He shows up at Marianne's house
Notices,
and notices she's bleeding, and he's like, "Did Alan do this to you?"
Yeah. Get in the car.
Get in the car, makes sure she's safe in the car, and basically is like, "Do not touch her." You can tell he's having this like visceral reaction as well. I believe it explains that in the book. He's
Starting to get like hot. He's starting to become like shaky. He's
Yeah.
he's just, he's starting to have like a physical reaction to that. And he's like, I need to talk to you. And Alan immediately goes, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You're such a little
immediately
freaking...
Connell's like, no, if you touch
Yeah.
her again, I will kill you.
That's all. It says one bad thing to her ever again, and I'll come back here myself and kill you. That's it. And then he realizes Alan's crying. He's like, do you understand me? He says yes or no. Alan goes, yes. And he turns around and walks out the door.
Walks out. Yeah.
And immediately she goes, I'm sorry to bother you. He said, don't say sorry. It's good you called me, okay? Look at me for a second. No one's ever going to hurt you again like that.
Oh, I love that. Love that.
He goes, I love you. I'm not going to let anything like that happen to you again. Fuck.
So cute.
So cute. And then again, 7 months jump.
Yeah.
This is when it becomes really fast paced. What did you
Yeah.
think about how quickly it kept speeding up? Because already we're like towards the end of the book.
Towards the end, yeah. So basically, Connell had applied to, what was it?
Another,
Like some sort of program in New York.
correct.
And didn't tell Marianne about it. He gets accepted.
He didn't think he would get accepted
He didn't
too.
think he would get accepted, but
Yeah.
he does get accepted. And Marianne is encouraging him to go.
Yes, encouraged him to go, but then so there's a girl, she gets upset because she didn't know, but another girl knew.
Yes.
And immediately Marianne thinks it's like something that it isn't. She's like, well, why did you tell her and not
Yeah.
me? He goes, I don't know. She's the one who told me to apply. I thought it was a stupid idea, honestly, hence why I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
Then immediately she goes, are you in love with her?
Yeah. It's like, what?
Marianne. He goes, are you joking? Like, oh my God.
Literally.
He goes, you're getting a lot of stuff messed up here, Marianne. I don't even like Sadie as a friend.
Yeah.
That's kind of harsh. Frankly, I find her annoying. I don't know how many times I have to say to you that I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the application thing.
Yeah.
But how does that make you jump to conclusion that I'm in love with someone else? Which is true.
It's true.
He goes, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, okay? Sometimes I feel embarrassed telling you stuff like that because it just seems stupid. To be honest, I still look up to you a lot. I don't want you to think of me as, I don't know, deluded.
Oh, Connell.
And then, and then she's like, okay,
It's basically the end.
you
here.
should go, she says. I'll be here. And you know that.
Yes.
Ending.
The end.
Oh,
Insane.
I did find the jumps way too much. And then immediately was like, got accepted. Okay, end.
Yeah.
Bye. I did not like that ending.
Yeah. Me too.
I really wanted to know more or for them to have a conversation. And then I think this is where the TV show comes in,
Yes.
where I loved the TV show
Yeah.
because it really gave me things that the book didn't give me.
Yes, exactly. I agree.
What do you read?
You get more of the like emotions from a character rather than in the book, which typically it's the other way around
Yeah.
for me. But in this show, you got more
You got so much
from
more.
the show.
The book gave you context of how these characters were feeling.
Yeah.
But the movie just gave you more scenes
Yeah.
and just more. I don't know. For me, the show is a 5.
Yeah, me too. All the way.
All the way.
Yeah, it's
I
so good.
love Paul and Daisy as the characters.
Oh, their chemistry on screen is insane.
Out of this fucking world, man.
Insane.
They brought these characters to life, and when you're watching it, I didn't feel like I was watching a show.
Yeah.
I feel like I was watching these people
Very
go through
true.
life.
Yeah,
which is
that's
so
very true.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like they nailed it.
Oh, it was so good.
So-
So well done. The
so-
way it's shot, everything. I loved it.
I loved it, and I know we're jumping to the end, but I loved at the end. It really gave us them talking it through and how he was gonna go and she was gonna stay.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Oh,
I'm
I
never gonna love anyone else like I love
like
you.
a baby. The
Girl,
end
I
scene.
couldn't.
I was crying my eyes out. Like,
Bawling.
oh.
I watched the show on my phone and
Yeah.
I'm like
like crying in your phone.
crying, looking at my phone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the scene between them two.
Yeah.
And how, she's just comforting him. Oh, I can't do it, you guys.
Oh, I know.
Oh, where is my notes? I have notes, I think.
And toward the ending also is quite different in the show. Like I feel like it's more
It was drawn
final.
out.
She kind of tells him like that's not fair for you to say. Like I'll come back in a year, kind of thing. Like because she's like like we don't know where either of us is going to be in a year or how we're feeling.
I feel like
Right?
I think
It's more like final. Where in the book it's kind of more Marianne leaves it more open. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, yes, I can see that.
Marianne's like, I'll be here.
yeah.
Like, she's like, I'll be here waiting for you. Where in the book, it's kind of like more final.
I don't really. That's what my interpretation that it wasn't final.
Yeah.
I still like
comparing it to the book.
Comparing it to the book. Yeah. I think it just. Oh gosh. In my mind, maybe I'm just projecting. I still feel like they will find each other.
Yeah. No, I think that too. Definitely. But it's more like.
Because I don't think in the show, I don't think she just accepted being like, look, you go and I'm gonna stay.
Yeah,
like I want to stay, but it didn't feel final to me. It just felt so like I felt scared that they were gonna drift apart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you get more of like they're not gonna be together. Like I don't know, like. I don't know how to express it.
Yeah.
Comparing it to the book.
I see what you mean.
Because Marianne's like, I'll be here waiting for you.
Waiting for you.
Whereas she's like, that's not fair of you to say you'll be back in a year because you don't know where either of us will be, right?
I think because they just kept driving.
I think they'll always be connected to each other in some way. Yeah. Like they'll always be a part of each other's lives. I just don't know.
If they're their final loves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Oh, the TV show just does something to me, you guys. Like I love them so much. I love them so much. I need them. I really loved the show, and that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to have the book as one of our book clubs because the TV show meant so much to me, and I could talk about it forever.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons was because even though I'm not a person who can like really put myself into both, I can see a little bit of aspects of myself.
Definitely.
In both Marianne and Connell. Obviously my life doesn't mirror what they had as teenagers, but I just feel something about them.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I feel like you can understand when you have miscommunication of, maybe not you have these personal deep conversations or care about someone like Marianne and Connell did, but for me, I can understand being Marianne as a young girl, not having like her background of where my life was horrible, but the fact that like you put yourself down for other people, you're like, oh, I've done that.
Yeah.
And that's what I
think we all have, like, to try and fit in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
or you put yourself down for other people. Just how like Connell put himself down, feeling like he wasn't good enough for Marianne.
Yeah.
I felt that. And then I don't know. I don't want to get too personal, but like this show means so much to me. I love it so much. What was your favorite scene from the book? Let's start there.
Favorite scene from the book? Oh God. I'm like having a blank here. I think maybe when he like saves her from Alan, like that scene. I really like that scene.
Why do you like that scene?
Just because, he's finally like really sticking up for her in a sense. Like he literally told her mother, I will kill you if you touch her. Like, and I think that was huge. So huge for him. You know what I mean? So I think that was my favorite part.
That's
what was
a really
yours?
good scene. Ooh. My favorite scene from the book. That's a really good one. There was another one.
I think. Blank.
Oh. At the moment, I think I'm going to choose that one too. Of where, even though, because of the scene prior to that, where, she asked him, like, okay, like, would you, like, choke me? And he's like, or hit me or whatever. He's like, no.
Yeah.
Even though she's like, she didn't know what to do with that information, leaves, has the thing, and immediately is like, I need Connell. I need him to save me.
Exactly.
And I like that scene. I like that scene a lot. What was your favorite scene in the show?
In the show?
Because there are differences from the show to the book, and I thought I'd written it down. I'm going to check my notes, you guys. I swear I wrote those things down.
In the show. I'm trying to think. Like, I really liked, like, the party scene, like, when Connell gets jumped and he comes back, and, like, he's, like, you know, he says that line to her. That's really cute. I don't know. There's just so many like intimate moments between them that I loved in the show. You know, when they're like in bed talking and stuff
The
like
Skype
that.
calls.
Yeah.
The Skype
Oh, and,
calls.
I love that scene when she was like, I'll stay on the line. Right?
Because
And
that wasn't in the book.
yeah, exactly. And he wakes up and she's still there. Like,
Can't-
I loved that.
They're
I loved
Skypings.
that.
Yeah, it's like in the fact that in the show where they're looking at each other and they're saying like, I miss you too, I'll stay up with you. How can you guys have these scenes and
Yeah.
still don't think that you guys should be together?
Exactly.
Just
It's
kill me.
mind-boggling.
And also a scene that we didn't really get in the book was where Marianne realizes that she was never an option in Connell's mind for Debs.
Yeah.
Daisy killed it with that scene
insane.
of just being like realizing like, oh my God, I was never an option in your mind.
It's craziness.
Because she always thought that she was the second option,
Yeah.
that she wasn't first. And then he'd be like, no, you were never the option. Oh, fucking punch me in the face. What's wrong with
Right?
you?
He's like literally straight up, no, didn't
No.
even cross my mind.
And before they get to Trinity and they have the conversation of like, well, I guess you pretend not to know me. And she's like, well, I'll never pretend not to know you,
Yeah,
Connell.
I love
and then
that.
they meet at college. And at first he doesn't go like, oh, Marianne. He just goes like, hi.
Yeah.
Like giving her the be like, do you want to still be with me?
Yeah, exactly.
And then she goes, yeah, she's like, of course. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, oh, hey, Connell. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't.
Exactly.
I can't. I love them so much together.
Such a good show.
Such a good show. And all throughout the show, you see their flirty banter, their interactions with each other, even when they're
Yeah.
not in a relationship.
Exactly.
You just see that with themselves.
And you get more like humor from the show, I found. Like compared
Yeah.
to the book, where like the book would explain these moments and they'd be like, oh, they laughed, but like you don't really get the full emotion from it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I know what
Yeah.
you mean. Daisy really brought that to the character of showing Marianne's emotion.
Yeah.
With just not even saying anything, just her face.
Yeah.
Like the devastation when they had that scene together of where Connell's drunk, bloodied in the face, and they're in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And he talks to her and tells her, like, I wanted to stay. And she goes, what? Like, you
Yeah.
wanted, I would have
She's like,
said,
obviously I would have let you stay.
yeah. Oh, I can't.
Oh God.
I can't. The constant of them just missing each other. And
The
oh,
miscommunications.
and I love the scene. So what was your favorite scene in the show? Did we say that or just the book? The favorite scene? Oh yeah, we talked. Oh, you
Yeah.
said the phone calls.
Yeah, and just like their intimate moments.
They're intimate. Yeah, I don't want to say like I love the damsel in distress ones, but I did love when he stood up for her when
At the bar.
at the bar. No, when all their friends were on the dinner table and that dinner party scene where he came in.
Yes.
And no, because he didn't have a physical altercation with Jamie,
Yeah.
but in the show he did.
Yeah.
Because I think he said, I'll kill you to him too.
No, it was pretty much the same where he just grabbed Marianne and
He
took
didn't
her
have a
out.
physical. Oh, he didn't.
No,
Oh wow, I'm just
no.
making that scene up in my head.
But it was very more like Connell was biting back towards Jamie at the dinner table, like
Okay.
replying to his like rude statements. 'Cause
Okay.
Jamie was quite drunk, right? So he's like kind of
Yes.
biting back a little bit, like, you know.
You're right. Totally. I was mixing the two.
Yeah.
I like that because of the scenes afterwards and them, laying in bed and talking to each other. I did love the scene when they're like bike riding into town to get food.
I love that.
Get
yeah,
food.
it's so cute.
And how he doesn't speak the language.
Yes.
And how the teller girl was like, well, I hope he's a gentleman and grabs your things. And obviously Colin doesn't know what she says.
Yeah.
And he grabs her things.
Yeah, it's so cute. I loved it.
Like these little interactions that you didn't get
Yeah.
in the book.
Yeah.
Just really solidified to you. Like they need to be
Totally.
together.
100%.
And it made it even more of a guttural punch
I agree.
when they don't. They go their separate ways. But I loved their character development where Connell always felt like he didn't deserve anything.
Yeah.
That he was never good enough. And the fact that he got this job to go and Marianne kept doing things for other people and how she was always doing things for everyone else, being
Yeah.
submissive, doing this, where she finally was like, even though she wants to go with him, she wants to stay.
She wants to stay.
And she did that for herself.
Because she finally liked her life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she was finally content.
Yeah.
Is what she had said to her friend. She's like, oh, she's swimming. And, you know, she's like, I'm just finally content with my life.
And she finally made a decision for herself. Where she's
Yeah.
like, no, I want to stay for myself.
Exactly.
Oh.
Which I was very proud of her.
Oh, and then and one of the scenes that wasn't my favorite, but I really want to point out, we didn't really get too much of Connell in therapy, talking about. But what I think Paul did so well was when he had the scene of talking about how he felt in front of his therapist and how he brought the emotion of how Connell was so depressed and him breaking down in that scene.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so heartbreaking.
Crazy.
Paul acted that so
Yeah, he did
well.
an amazing job.
Did so good. And the final scene where he's like crying and she's wiping his tears and like,
God,
I
that
can't.
scene, I can't.
These two people are so good at their job.
Yeah.
That no wonder people keep wanting them together because they made these characters so real, man.
Totally. I agree.
Whew. Yeah, I love normal people. I love people so much. That's why I want to read the book.
Yeah.
It's such a weird. It's so weird that I watched the show first and you read and then read the book.
That's right.
And then you read the book and watched the show. That if I didn't watch the show first, I wouldn't have finished the book
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, it was tough. It wasn't like, I mean, it's easy to get through. Don't get me wrong, but just like wanting to go back for more, it doesn't really like pull you in too much. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't
Doesn't have
feel
that
their
effect
emotion.
on me for some reason.
Yeah, and things because we talked about this before. Of like, I didn't feel their emotions. I just read their emotions.
Yes, exactly.
And so it's why I wasn't really gripped into it.
Yeah.
I understand the third person point of view because you're not supposed to really know how these characters are feeling because they don't
Yeah.
know how they're feeling and the anxiety from it.
Exactly.
But so then I wish the book could have been in second person of their
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah.
But that's what makes me love the TV show even more.
Yes, me too.
And oh gosh, I really want to talk about the scene which wasn't in the book was where after Debs where Connell calls her.
And it's like, I
love you. I was like sitting down, like, please answer. I love you. Oh God.
So cute.
This show just knows how to make you cry like a little baby.
Exactly.
And how these actors are so good at their job. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, the show was better in the book, better than the book.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I agree. It's the first I think I could say that where
Honestly,
a show is better than the book.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I hope you guys watched the show.
If you haven't, like, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Very well done.
It's one of those things that even though it's like devastating to watch, I want to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Keep
You wanna
rewatching it.
Rewatch it.
You know,
for
even though you know
sure.
it's going to emotionally wreck
Yeah.
me. It's like people keep saying like it's your favorite horror movie. Like that type of thing.
Exactly.
It's my favorite horror movie. Oh, I can't. I love it. I love it so much. Well, I think that's where we'll end it.
Yeah.
I could feel like we could just talk about it constantly, the scenes, but
we do have to announce our book for March, although most of you guys already know.
we did say it last week's
Yeah.
episode, but go ahead.
Yeah, so we will be reading Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli.
It is kind of like a spoiler, so we're not going to read the back of the
Yeah,
book.
you guys can look it up.
Yeah, you can look it up if you need to read Heartless Hunter
Yes.
before Rebel Witch. I'm so excited for Rebel Witch. I'm probably going to read it
Yes.
in like just a couple days.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I did the same for Heartless Hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait. Well, thanks you guys so much for listening. I would love to know if you guys both read the book and the show, please tell us your favorite from each
Yes.
and your rating from each as well, whether it's our social media or YouTube comments.
Yes.
'Cause I don't think you can leave comments on, I think you can.
You can on Spotify.
Can you?
I don't know
Yeah.
about Apple, but
Yeah,
Spotify
I'm not too
you
sure.
can.
But let us know, what are your favorite scenes from both if you've watched and read both. Yeah, or did you finish the book? Did you not finish the book? So, yeah, we'll end it there. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.